All right, I'm almost through this. Bear with me. Park Avenue to Pacific Avenue, we had three alternatives. Alternative A sought to maintain a portion of on-street parking by maintaining a two-lane roadway. Alternative B maintains a two-lane roadway but removes all on-street parking to provide the most bike lane separation. And alternative C converts the roadway to a three-lane roadway to better accommodate business access, but eliminates the majority of bike lane buffers due to limited street space. Based on community input last year, alternative B, which removes all on-street parking to provide the most bike lane separation, had the highest community support, and that's the recommendation.
There's only like, what, 6 parking spots or so?
18 or 19.
Oh, sorry.
But they're rarely used according to Melinda and in park.
And anybody who drives on it. But that's mere anecdotal data.
No, in park's got real data.
No, people who drive on it, yes.
Very weird.
And the universe does not want to.
That's right, I guess.
I think you're maintaining your pool very well.
All right. So you can see at the bottom, 18 on-street parking spaces will be lost here. So we've coordinated with our parking manager. They support this based on current parking utilization and the availability of adjacent service parking lots.
Yeah. Oh, no, do they?
2 more to go. Okay. Pacific Avenue to Washington.
Okay.
There were no alternatives presented for this section of roadway, primarily due to the limited street configurations which support vehicle lanes, bike lanes, and mitigation of on-street parking loss serving residential uses. So much higher parking demand here. This was an area where parking loss was really something that we tried to reduce. In the project survey last year, feedback was requested on the proposed parking protected bike lanes, which would place on-street parking between the bike lane and vehicle lane. So essentially another way to protect the bike lane. The concept design provides for a total of 7 on-street parking spaces between Pleasant Island. Based on community input last year, parking protected bike lanes were supported by the majority of respondents. And again, while this recommendation still requires a reduction in on-street parking, it balances cyclist safety and comfort while minimizing residential parking impacts and limited street space available. With the exception of the buffered areas adjacent to proposed parking, again, physical bike lane separation is not currently recommended. And finally, I wanted to touch on pedestrian and bicycle improvements. So this is something that I think there's been a lot of discussion around, not something that we've maybe talked about a lot, but staff recommendation includes some specific traffic signal improvements focused on improving pedestrian and bicycle safety. The first recommendation is for leading pedestrian intervals. You'll hear people talk about LPI at all signalized intersections. That's recommended, allowing pedestrians to get the walk indication seconds before vehicles are given a green indication. This strategy is shown to reduce vehicle and pedestrian crashes by 13%.
Can you tell me how long of an LPI there is?
We would have to, that would be something that we'd have to evaluate on a case-by-case basis. I mean, it's usually just, a few seconds.
7 seconds, yeah. I mean, that's all you have to safely cross Washington.
And then for bike signals and no turn on red, so at Warren Avenue in the westbound direction, a separate bike signal along with no turn on red is recommended. And this is as required by federal design standards. So this is based on the proposed westbound vehicle right turn lane at Warren, that we have to include to meet our minimum city operational thresholds. And because the bike lane will be located on the outside of the turn lane. In this configuration, vehicles will be prohibited from making a right turn on red, and when cyclists have a green indication to proceed through the intersection. All right. This slide outlines a path to achieve construction completion by the end of next summer. Just a reminder that WashDOT is requesting that the grant funds awarded for construction be obligated or authorized before the end of the current biennium, which ends in June of 27. A contract amendment with our consultant HDR is being finalized for remaining engineering services. The current schedule places that amendment on the March 4th City Council meeting. On the next slide, I'll discuss a overview of the budget. And pending approval of this amendment, remaining design would be expedited through this fall with no, again, very limited public input. Right, we've got the marching orders, assuming there's agreement on the recommendations. We'll continue with the concept designs. There's still going to be some little refinements and tweaks to the design. Construction bidding would occur at the end of the year with award at the very beginning of 2027, so right around the corner. And then construction would occur during the spring and summer of next year. Again, we need that warmer, drier weather to do the majority of the work on the project. All right, so this slide has been slightly updated from what's in the packet. I just wanted to highlight that. We did get some updated cost information from our consultant. I wanted everything to be up to date. So the project budget is broken down into 3 distinct phases. Design, that's where we are right now. This is the effort to get the project bid ready. Right away would be any cost associated with real estate needs for the project. Right now, the recommendation doesn't require any right away. And then obviously construction self-explanatory. That's cost associated with the construction of the project. A couple key things here. So design costs are expected to exceed the current budget by about $150,000. This is primarily due to the unforeseen time and effort associated with all the reevaluations that we did last year. These additional costs will require a budget amendment concurrent with HDR's contract amendment. We are in conversations with Washington, our granting agency, to see if they would allow us to authorize some of the grant funds for the remaining design costs. So that discussion is in the works, and we're hoping to hear back from Washington soon on that. Again, I mentioned the right-of-way phase. We originally had budgeted $50,000 for some construction easements, really minor things. That's not going to be needed. So that's some cost savings of the grant funds. And then we just trued up our construction cost estimate, and we're actually a little bit lower than we thought we were. So again, we're hoping that the reduction in estimated construction costs will allow us to leverage the grant funding to push that into the design, the additional design costs. I think that's the end of my presentation. So I'll afraid to stop sharing. Lose my connection. We'll stop sharing. We can
Okay,
if needed.
I'm going to start with our Public Works Chair with questions.
Actually, I want to commend you. Truly, I've been along for pretty much this whole process on Public Works Committee. And I think the job that you've done around community engagement, actually considering the community recommendations or their concerns, actually integrating some of those in. It's been a pleasure, to be a part of it, truly, Nick. And I think that any questions that I have about it or challenges that I have are outside of that process. And so one quick question is, could the $60,000 be spent on more flex sticks? But that's facetious, because I think that the removal of all those is triggering some, wait a minute, we thought, and yet I understand why the decision was made. I also am feeling a little uncomfortable with maybe the reasons that it was made and the politics involved. And I just have to say that has nothing to do with you. Your work has been outstanding, and I think the community tells you that on a regular basis. So the tide has shifted, and I'm just really appreciative. It's been a great process to be a part of. And then I'll let everybody else.
No, I just want to, well, thank you for that. I echo a lot of that. Like it's been it's been great, just having conversations with people with different perspectives, and that's what project is all about, is different perspectives. So to your point about maybe getting some additional flexible posts, that's something that we've already been thinking about. Is these things are going to get hit, right? So if we have some additional funding, maybe we can have some additional as part of the contract. So Cerise is ready to go and move in. That's things need to be maintained.
Yeah. Thanks. Thank you. This council and the people who reported to us said many, many times, don't widen the street, don't make right turn lanes, protect the bike lanes. And you know what? We've done so. Within, is it perfect? It is not perfect. Is it really, really good? Yes. I am happy to support this anytime it comes before. One thing I did want to ask was the Chief McGanny was involved with this process and had a chance to review, like, obviously at the September open house, but at additional times after that.
Yes.
That was really all I had. I have a question about no turn on red, but I will email it to you, and perhaps the meeting can move forward. Thank you very much, Nick, and everybody on your. So, Jennifer, do you have any questions?
I
I haven't
raised
she's
my
on
hand.
public works, so that's I'm sorry.
Nope, haven't raised my hand.
I live on the damn street.
That's true. So you go for it, Michael.
So,
Language, Mike.
so I was actually just reading an email that I have from 2019 when neighbors and I met to talk about this, because Public Works Director Paul Martin had expressed an interest in looking at 6 as road diet. We also looked at 11 possibly as one of them. One of the things I really remember from the meeting was, and I think it was Paul Duffy, who, if you guys know him from West Side Cycling, who I was looking for it. I think he did like a little illustration of the neighborhood. And then we were really only talking about like sort of Tallow to, I don't know if it was maybe Warren or something. We're already doing much, much more. But we came up with a sort of term like we're stitching the neighborhood back together. Because at some point, right, well, first of all, 6th Street originally was probably a muddy road from downtown to Keller.
Absolutely, but
right?
widened.
You'd get from one city to another. If you look at my front yard, it's been hacked and the extra lane in. And it's a lot more than we need. It's a lot more infrastructure than we need. And, we've got this whole neighborhood between 6th and 11th. They've got parks over here and they've got parks over there. But, there's a major road, just, swath of pavement cutting in half. And even though we were talking to like a lot of the West Sound Cycle Club, I was even like, what if we just put trees down the middle? Like, I was like, let's improve the tree canopy. Like, there was all this sort of potential. I'm 100% on board with the bike improvements. And I really think you've done a great job navigating this. Because I feel really good about what you put in front of us today, and spent time reading a lot of comments and things like that. And I think there's always room for improvement, and I think we've done that in the project, and after the project, there's always room for improvement, whether we modify something that's not working correctly. I'm trying to think if I had one other thought, but I think that was the big piece of it. I was going to just mention that the Hewitt, and I love those center of the road raised pedestrian island kind of thing. That Hewitt one is going to affect every day of my life.
Yeah.
So let's put it in. Because that means like when I'm coming home from downtown, I can no longer turn on a Hewitt, or my neighbors, or everyone who shares the alley with me. They're going to either have to go early and come up through another neighborhood or go to Naval. I'm not even sure it's really safe to turn immediately into that alley.
We'll learn.
But we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. And again, it's some greater good. And sometimes we have to take what we get. And I also just believe that this is, I really am proud of what we've done here. But I also, what is the don't let perfection be the enemy of progress. Been waiting a long time. I've been waiting a long time for this, and
19 years.
and again, originally was like we were thinking like, was this going to happen in phases? Was this going to be Kitsap in Naples, and then downtown, and then this piece? And because we kind of, you know, kind of planned it all together, that we're gonna, you know, I think it's going to be an easier transition and lift. The other thing, as I want to say, is I'm so glad you guys got funding. Because if you recall, I was the one who said, let's just fund design. Let's keep it moving. And, you know, and like, hopefully the rest of it will come. And it did. So, and I was very proud of where we're at with this. I know there's folks that are dear to me that want more. But and I think we can, yeah, I'm good about it. I think we can, let's make some progress.
One bite at a time.
Yeah. Take the elephant. That's all I
So other council comments?
have. I was one thing.
I'm sorry.
Hey, could we get a little map that just shows where, like,
There's
where is there one that?
the little map that he had spread on 7 tables.
There is, so there.
Oh, yeah, it's not
is
little.
on our website. Yeah, so we have a map that shows basically our recommendations and a whole plot. So you can go to the website and zoom in anywhere and
It'll show where things.
Large scale.
This version is what you presented.
Correct.
It's where dividers or candlesticks or whatnot.
Exactly.
That's
It'd be a great wall hanging for your office.
Like with the final recommendations and not just the
Just
options.
well,
Yeah.
big
We
enough.
would really like it.
Okay, any other council comments?
Here.
Go ahead, Rick.
Okay, I was obviously not here during all of the deliberations on this, and, you know, so I can only see what has been printed. And I printed out today the last survey, and I can tell you that it does not match what I'm hearing here. Question number 1 had 121 responses. 73 of them were negative.
What was the question?
Presume you all read this, but
Well, I don't have it memorized, and everybody
three
watched.
design options shown so far match your priorities for 6th Street.
Right.
71 of 121 people said they don't match.
That's a minority, isn't it?
No, it's 60.3%.
71 out of 123?
71 out of
Okay.
121.
Oh, sorry.
So, and it's similar for every other question. The only questions that had a very minor response because they said they didn't understand what was being presented with regard to the islands and the intersection revisions and so forth. So my point is, and it's not, and it's all zip codes. So my point is, if we're here to represent all citizens, do we need to spend some more time trying to resolve these issues? Because they are very specific and very pointed about 6th Street and the lack of support for bike lanes. And don't write me a bunch of letters. I know there's a bunch of people watching.
No, they will.
They will.
Well, it's not my word. These are not my words. All I'm saying is, did we look at this, did we take this into account? This is the most recent survey that had the most feedback. The earlier surveys had less feedback. This one seemed like it got to more citizens than the previous ones. I was shocked, frankly, to find there was that much opposition to this proposal.
I think I would
And
like
then
to let
let me
Nick
say one more thing,
respond.
okay, one more thing is that, okay, 6th Street, there are no businesses on Burwell, there are no businesses on 11th. The connector to the businesses in downtown and Callow with various other businesses are 6th Street. And if we've not heard from those businesses along there who just endured, well, not the ones I talked to then, they just endured March 17th to September with their streets torn up and impact to their business. And now it's so unknown what sort of a response this will, will this impact them again less than 1 year from their last interruption to their businesses? And they survived, most of them survived, but
They all did.
and I can tell you that the other thing is that I went and looked at the parcel map, and much of Sixth Street is business. You just look at the owner and the homes that are there. Many of them are not owner occupied.
What are, I'm wondering what the,
I
with
I
this
don't know.
presentation, what you're challenging or asking.
It's the one that came out with their agenda. It's the one that
I'm
came out
wondering,
today
we
with
only
the
have
agenda.
one small business district in District 4 on Sixth Street. And one side of it has all been bought up by a church. So the other side has got a landscape that looks like it's closed. It's got a small grocery store, a restaurant,
Used clothing.
used clothing store, and a coffee shop. That's it.
That's in your district. You have Red's Electric, you have the barber shop, you have.
I just think
But that's-
we're in a part of the process where this isn't.
I'm just
Yeah,
saying, and you're-
we're way
you're
past
not
it.
there. I'm just telling you, the survey you sent out with today's agenda, and this is it, and I went through it all.
Kind of,
I'd like Nick to address
Yeah.
that because it's pointed
Yeah, no,
towards him.
You're seeing the same thing when we saw the survey. I think the biggest surprise for us was the change in dynamic and responses that we got, right? So I think what we saw was just engagement from a bigger sector of the community, right? Including folks that
Commuters. Mhm.
in Bremerton.
Mhm.
So the reason that I have assumptions in our recommendations is exactly for that reason. So when my assumption is this project is going to advance to construction, that means we are delivering a project that achieves the goals of connecting the gap in the bike network and improving safety for all users. So when,
Okay.
if you look at the comments, there's a lot of comments that are people just completely that do not support this project.
Mhm.
Very strong opinions, right? So the way that I evaluate that is we appreciate your comment. This has been a planned project, and this feedback helps us understand the different perceptions. But at the end of the day, our goal is to deliver the project that's been planned. So you have to figure out a way that, okay, someone that's going to be against the project no matter what, how do you factor in that interest? It tells you that, hey, maybe we need to change the way that we message things, or clarify things. People that have concerns over traffic congestion, like, okay, we can try to change messaging, but we can't rely on people that they're reading all the FAQs and the documents that we're publishing and sharing along the way. The second thing was businesses. So we really tried hard to engage with businesses. We have someone go door to door handing out information. I was trying to host a business only meeting. I know I met with the Charleston Business District and met with some of the business owners over there. We just didn't get a lot of engagement from the business community for whatever reason. So, we really tried to have a business specific meeting, but at the end of the day, we just didn't get a good response.
There were businesses at the September open house because I talked to several of them. Michael, go ahead.
So I feel like overall, people I've talked to at some of the open houses overall support the concept. There's people who really differ on features and maybe how we do things. And so I think that, even though, 60 something percent were unhappy, some of them were happy because we were doing too much protection on the bike lanes. There's some people that were unhappy because we weren't doing enough protection on the bike lane.
Yep.
The other thing I wanted to talk about when we talk about businesses is there's a concept called slow wallet. So by having folks on bicycle, by having more pedestrians on the sidewalk, and by having traffic slow down, they say that's better for business. People are actually seeing the businesses a little differently. They're able to stop and they're able to hop into that center turn lane and turn into a business.
Okay, well, again, you guys, the council was arrived at this before my election, so I just want to make sure that we read the latest group of comments, and I read them today. And, again, as I said, I was surprised at the level of opposition. I did not expect that, given what I've heard. Everybody wants this. It's got large level of community support. That's not what this tells me.
Well,
So
I beg to differ because I said I didn't support it when I filled out because I didn't support the exact thing that was on the paper at the time, right? Nick has gone out of his way to modify that plan to make it a lot better. It wasn't 71% of people said, we never want bike lanes on 6th Street or traffic calming on 6th Street. That wasn't the question. It was supporting the way it was at that time before he did revisions.
but this was just October. Have you revised the plan since October?
Yeah, yes.
That was October? No, well, we had the public meeting in September of last year.
Yeah, and you've modified since then.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've taken the input,
Mhm.
we haven't changed anything, we've just taken
Right.
the specific recommendations from that information and
Yes.
consolidated them into a recommendation.
So if it's okay from a sociological perspective, I want to just point out the negativity bias in surveys. That's pervasive, right? Like something that you might be aware of is that people do come to surveys more often to report negative than to report positive. More people will complain on surveys than will provide positive feedback. I just want, like, from a data perspective, that's something that I keep in mind when I'm like analyzing like survey data. And I just I don't know if that resonates with you, Nick, but that's often what we get is negative feedback in surveys. The Bremerton One app is designed to take in negative feedback and we respond to it. And I just wonder, like, also my second wondering would be beyond how much of the negativity bias is present in this survey, also how many of the survey respondents were, I want to know if you had a chance to look at the number who have in the city of Bremerton zip codes as opposed to those who are outside of the city limits.
Yes, they're all Bremerton zip codes.
City of Bremerton or Bremerton zip codes, like, what is it, 9311 is not our city of Bremerton?
66% Bremerton zip code.
Okay.
And we did, this was discussed in the Public Works Committee meeting last November, but we did look at kind of the breakdown by zip code. Obviously, there was some differences in responses. It wasn't as dramatic as I think maybe some folks would expect from different, commute patterns, things like that. But we felt pretty confident, kind of digging into the data that, the feedback was consistent enough that, it wasn't really worth looking specifically at, just Bremerton zip code.
So I'm not sure if everybody here realizes, but of all the Bremerton zip codes that say Bremerton, only 66% of the people actually live in Bremerton city limits.
Is that what you're saying?
But
Okay.
so I went
Based on
from
zip code.
based on zip code. I mean, my zip code, I get mail that says I live in Gorst, and I live in the middle of Bremerton.
Well, there's 5 or 6 distinct zip codes for
Yes.
the city of Bremerton, 5 or 6. I'm not.
I think there's 5 still.
Okay.
Well, I understand. Unless you want my address, I don't know how you can say that. But 9312 is a Bremerton zip code, but it does go all out to feedback. So did you eliminate 9312 or did you physically look at the progress?
We looked, so for what I considered Bremerton zip codes, again, because of the way that the zip code areas are, is 98310, which is East Bremerton. And you've got 98337, which is West Bremerton.
And
East
Gorst.
side of West Bremerton, yeah, which is there. And then you have 98312, the wider
Right.
Western Bremerton zip code. So those are the three primary ones that we looked at. There weren't a lot of responses from the, you get out into Port Orchard, we have like 5%. You get into the Tracyton area, we have like 6.9% response. So
Okay,
I just wanted to
so I
say,
think
I wanted to make sure that we recognize the response, and I do agree, Jennifer, that Councilman Chamberlain,
You can call me Jennifer. Where's the study session? We go by
Councilwoman is
first
kind
name,
of
but that's
a-
okay.
going back previously, so the previous surveys, it wasn't overwhelming positive response, but people are getting more, this is getting closer, so you're getting more of the feedback from a wider population. And that's what I saw. So
I
there you go.
appreciate the attention to the larger data like pool. So thank you for pointing that
Okay.
out.
please,
It's just lame.
So, to help Rick and I, because we've only been a part of this for 20 days, officially. That's where we step into this, and he is not wrong. I had to turn that phone off today because I got so many calls while I was working, and I had to turn off my city phone. And they were all this Sixth Avenue. That's what everybody who left messages on that. So he's not wrong, but they're trying to get the 2 new city council members. So what would be helpful for us is to understand, has the train left the station on design? Because if the train has left the station and we're stepping in 28 days into this, and it does not matter what opinions we have, who we listen to, whatever it is, if the train has left the station on design, that's okay. But if it's ambiguous and people still believe that their input or them discussing things or anything can change the outcome of this, and I will be honest, when I was scrolling through what most of the messages were, it's the decision between, are we going to have 4 lanes of drivable or 2 lanes of drivable and whatever the end is like. It would be incredibly helpful for us to know where we're at in this, because we want to respect the fact we're only stepping on the 20 days.
And, I totally appreciate that sentiment. So, in my opinion, if we were to just hypothetically, if we were to go out and do a third open house meeting based on these comments, we're going to get the same input. We can make little modifications. We're not removing bike lanes like that. That would be a complete change in scope. We're not doing anything that makes, safety for any other user worse, right? That doesn't choose one scope. So, in my opinion, the train has left the station in that there's going to continue to be decisive or a division in what people think this project should and shouldn't be. We've spent years planning this project. There's been other opportunities for input through the JCTG, through the comprehensive plan effort, through all the other studies that have been done. So, in my opinion, we've been tasked with not if we're going to do this project, how we're going to do it. And I think that where we're at now is we have a good understanding of, what the community thinks will achieve these goals, how we can achieve it. That being said, there's always going to be comments from folks that maybe don't agree with this project being prioritized, or they may have a perception, people are scared of change. So, I don't see a lot of value in, keeping this public dialogue going with more concept designs. Like we need to.
I would like to chance.
We need to, in my opinion, make sure we don't lose our grant funding and get this thing built. And again, it's previously planned project. We're just working through the details. I think the recommendations strike a very fair balance. And, I think that's a tough question. How do you respond to people that just don't agree with the project?
Yeah.
Okay, so every council member has 1 more, and then I would like to comment.
just close it out?
I would like to comment if that's okay. Go ahead, Christy.
So the other thing is, continuity's sake, on the internet, we have for these slides, the old numbers. So if we ever want to go back into this, it shows that.
They updated for the next packet.
Stuff. So if we can get the slides moving public with continuity, but with that, with the 150 design that's coming from the city, is that in the 2026 budget? Do we already have that?
So we would have to do a budget adjustment. That's something that is going to have to be figured out by the time we, what is it?
March 4th.
March 4th. So it'll be at Public Works Committee on February 17th, which is right around the corner. So,
That Tuesday.
again, we're trying to get, WashDOT's approval to let us use some of the grant funding, but that's not going to, even if they say, sure, we still have to submit documentation to WashDOT, that has to go to their headquarters. That could take months. So that's not going to be possible by the time we, take this contract ready. So yes, we do not have at this time a funding source for that funding.
Go ahead.
Just to make sure, I remember learning this early on, that the council's role is in policy and funding. And so whenever a contract comes before us that we have to approve, that is our opportunity to weigh in, beginning with Public Works Committee. There are no public comments maybe at a certain point or whatever, no more public input. That does not mean we don't have council input. And so even those that have come in late, Rick and you still, whenever there's a contract, there's an opportunity. I don't want to end this conversation though without, there was a lot of protection removed since the last iteration of this with the flex sticks and this decision that came in from the fire department. And I do think that needs to be discussed at some point.
I'm waiting to discuss it when I get a chance. Go ahead, Rick.
Okay, one last thing.
Sure.
This slide, there's no page number on it, but the two speech bubbles out here. Do they reflect the prominent comment? The two speech bubbles say.
So what I tried to illustrate,
Why did you pick those two?
Is to show two completely polar opposite comments. Take snippets from comments and just show that, you've got subsets of people with completely polar opposite, thoughts on the project.
But there must have been enough to say this for you to bring that one forward.
Nick just does really great presentations.
He
does great PowerPoint.
He's trying to show us
No, I
that
mean,
there's
you had a
differences.
decision,
saying.
you made a decision to put those two comments.
Sure.
He's
And I
an
have two
infographic
other
game.
comments that say, hey, this looks great, or, let's prioritize, pedestrian safety. So that was the
Okay,
intent. There was no.
Get in the weeds.
We're at an hour and 3 minutes on this.
Okay, fine,
And it's info only.
Yeah.
And now I get to speak. So I just want to point out to anybody in the public, I'm sorry, go ahead. Do you want to talk?
I'm just laughing.
Okay,
Sorry,
so
hours, minutes.
the latest plan, because in 2007, this was pointed out that this was a priority to put this in our active transportation plan. In the joint compatibility study, the preferred alternative, which was a consolidation of the public, city council, and the base, was number one, build active transportation projects that facilitate modal shifts. That was the number one thing. So now, Nick, I think you've done a great job. I mean, we came from where people were beating their heads, and you have really considered lots of different options, and I'm really, really appreciative. This by far has been the best process on any major road construction project in the past. Well, I've lived here 25 years, so at least the last 5. Okay, so I really appreciate that. But I'm really concerned that 52% of the T-sticks were removed in this final iteration. And, when we looked at the International Fire Code, it requires 20 feet width. And the narrowest you have designed is 22.5, I believe. So I heard from a lot of firefighters today, talking with them, and their biggest, that's great.
Well, there's one right there.
Their concern wasn't that response time, yes, is lower, but it's because our volume is so incredibly high. It's not because of T-sticks. And if somebody hits a T-stick, they're pretty easy to put back in. And to start off by saying, well, we're going to take out 52% of these T-sticks, and maybe later we'll put them back, makes no sense. To me, it makes a lot more sense to put them in. If they don't work, okay, then you take out that corner of T-sticks. There are numerous, one thing that hasn't been paid attention to, and I'm not saying by you, by detractors, is there's lots of driveways and intersections where people can pull over to that have no T-sticks. There's lots of those areas. And I'm really concerned about the area on 6th Street where there's going to be parking, but no T-sticks. And so what that makes, you've got a bike lane, and then you've got the 2-foot buffer. And all I see is a line of Amazon trucks, just like we have down on Washington Avenue in the area that does not yet have T-sticks. So, I mean, we're making it even easier for delivery trucks to park illegally there, and in-park can only cover so much. I really hope you look at putting back a lot of those T-sticks, because I don't think it's warranted to remove them all. And a lot of the firefighters I talked to today are in agreement. I mean, we still don't even have a map that shows priority routes for fire and emergency in the city. And, you know, I've been asking for that for years at Public Works. It's
Want the chief to.
Yeah, he can respond to that. Sure.
Well, I think myself and the fire marshal, along with Nick, put a lot of time and effort that we didn't have to put into this plan. Understanding you're taking a major route, the emergency response. Let's not just fire. It's fire, it's police, it's ambulances, it's our partners in the county that respond to our city and into our city. You're taking a 4-lane road down to 2 lanes. If you don't give people a place to get full to the right, like they're supposed to, they're not going to hit anything but their car. We're just asking that we don't slow our response down. So I don't know what firefighters you were talking to today.
Mostly from other agencies, because I've yet to find one documented report that says putting in flex posts for bike safety reduces emergency response time. Not one. I found multiple ones that say it doesn't, but I haven't found one that says it does.
It just doesn't give people a place to go. If people don't have a way to get out of our way, then that's going to slow us down. Again, this is just fire department's opinion. My opinion as a fire chief, being in the fire service for 4 years. Our goal is to provide public safety to all of the city. So it's information that we gave. I thought we had a great collaboration talking through this. We've got protected walkways that are going to be pinch points for the fire department. And I'm just trying to make sure that we can get to the citizens who need us as quick as we can get there, because in our business, time means life. So that's the perspective we're looking at it from. You guys as city council, you guys get to make your choice. If you want to tell them to put them back in, you can. I just want to be on record that we don't have
Risk
down.
assessment.
I talked to this, can the city attorney address that? Because I did talk to her about whether or not going, because we're not asking to go below international fire standards, because the design that Nick has is above it. The standard is 20 feet.
In the city of 26 BMC, that's what we require.
But I thought we've adopted the International Fire Code,
We have, we also
but
have-
it's 20 there.
I get that, but in the city of Bremerton, we require 26 feet because of our ladder truck.
For one
So, for
truck.
access.
Mhm.
So that's what it's kind of an important truck we're trying to get through, and it's big. But when anybody's building, we require 26 feet for a ladder truck guy. That's in the BMs. So, yeah, a 22-foot road, and you cram it down, again, we're gonna have to slow down if we can get through there. Again, it's information. You guys as city council get to do with what you want with that.
So I'll just to kind of add on to that. So I just want to remind everyone that, you know, when we first started having discussions, the fire department, you know, it was really almost like we don't want any protection. So I personally believe where we're at is a huge compromise by, you know, emergency services to, you know, understand the benefit of the project and really just identify the specific areas where they think they have the highest amount of concern. I don't know where you got the 52% reduction. I don't know that.
Counted T-sticks.
So this provides protection on 75% of the corridor, you know, and then it's just primarily the area east of Warren, where again, we're providing, you know, 3.5 foot wide bike buffers, and I think 7 foot wide bike lanes.
So don't you see that's going to be a parking spot for Amazon instead?
Well, I mean, again, these are all trade-offs, right? So I'm not gonna, you know, that's a policy decision, right? You know, so you know, we can certainly you know, take direction from the council. I think I've shared that, you know, budget-wise, I think we're okay. You know, I don't think, you know, we're in a position where if we, you know, if we added more protection, like we'd have to take away something else. I don't think that's the case. This is more of a balanced recommendation from our subject matter experts, and, you know, considering the trade-offs and everything else that goes into, you know, these facilities. So,
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, thank you, Jane, because Nick, when you were saying 75% is covered in T-sticks, and I was really right. Am I quoting you more or less accurately? And I felt that, like, you know, really once you cross Warren Avenue, everything does slow down. You know, I mean, you could ride like with training wheels past Warren Avenue. Sort of. But if what you're doing is also eliminating the intervals, right? So that if there are wider intervals between T-sticks, then I think Jane's point is very well made, because let's not just go on Amazon, FedEx, UPS. Everyone who has a delivery to do sees those areas as, yeah, freestanding room while I run in and out. Which can be 5 to 10 minutes. So I don't see anything wrong with like putting them in intervals that preclude that prevent that, all the way from starting up at 11, yeah, all the way down to Warren. If they get knocked over, it won't hurt, you know, it's not going to hurt any living thing. So I think that would that like ruin the budget in some way?
no, it wouldn't. I mean, I think, you know, currently, I think we stand behind our recommendation, which again is to, you know, collaborating with the fire department. And, you know, we heard loud and clear we want more protection. So, you know, you know, national research kind of uses that 6,000 vehicles per day as the magic number, where, you know, if you're under that, you know, a buffered bike lane provides a high level of safety and comfort on a low-speed roadway. And that magically east of Warren is where that break happened. That allows us to go in 2 lanes. I mean, we could, you know, we had options for 3-lane sections, right? But we just take up the street space. So your bike lanes would be narrow. Your handlebars would be hitting the, you know, the post, right? Anyone that has a cargo bike. So this provides a nice wide bike facility, slower speeds. Our speed studies now, so east of Warren, average speeds are about 6 miles an hour less than they are west of Warren, based on current speed. Volumes are lower, so that's how we came up with this balanced recommendation.
No, I get that. And just final follow-up, I think, Chief, you should think about, like, those Amazon vans are really wide. And if they are in the bike lane, that's going to be much more of an obstacle to even your ladder truck getting to where it wants to
But they're
go.
going to park in the center. And now the cars don't have a place to pull over because
They're going to park in the center lane?
Yeah, that's where do you think they're going to park?
In the bike lane,
There is
wherever
no
they
center
can.
lane.
Not if you put up T-sticks.
Exactly my point.
Where are they going to park? They're going to park in the center of the lane.
They're going to pull over into driveways.
There's 17 driveways and intersections in that area. 17. That's a lot of places to pull over. But, you know, it's 6:15. We got a whole room full of people. we're not taking action on this tonight or next week. And I'm sorry, when's the next time you come to council, Nick?
Goes to, public.
It goes to Public Works.
On February 17th, study session, February 25th,
Okay,
city
25th.
council, city council March 4th.
Okay, well,
And I guess there would be opportunity for public comment at the March 4th city council meeting.
or beforehand.
Can I ask?
So anybody who wants to, please send in emails.
I just want to make sure how transit, there's 19 bus stops on 6th Street, so if you could talk about that next time.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Nick. You're free.
Everybody else. Going on. So before we move on the agenda,